Hello there, and welcome back to our new video where we're going to talk about the murder of a World War I veteran named George Clarence Seitz, solved after 46 years of murder. We'll talk about who he was, how he got murdered so brutally, and how his case got solved after such a long time. Let's dive in.
A 74-year-old Queens man now charged with murder in connection with the death of a World War I veteran who disappeared almost 45 years ago. Sharon Crowley explains how the NYPD says it cracked the cold case killing.
George Clarence Seitz was an American World War I military veteran. He was a diligent soldier who served his home nation during World War I. After his retirement from the military, he started living independently and privately in a separate house. But his life was not the same after the war, just like thousands of other people. He developed severe post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, and started to feel like he was threatened in some way, even if he wasn't, which is also a disorder known as paranoia. He liked to be on his own, as he was really skeptical. He didn't even trust the banks, so he kept all his cash on his own. He was a man of discipline, no doubt a military servant. His clothes always looked clean, just like his house. On December 10, 1976, according to a press release from the Queens District Attorney's house, Seitz was last seen leaving his home in Jamaica, Queens on December 10, 1976. He was on his way to get to a nearby barber shop to get a haircut on 116th Street in Jamaica, New York. Suddenly, the 81-year-old Seitz disappeared, and no one knew where he went or what happened to him. He was believed to have gone missing at approximately 10 a.m. that day. There wasn't a single clue as to where he could have gone. He didn't come back home for days. 5 days after his disappearance, his family reported him missing, and the authorities started their search immediately, though they didn't find any evidence for his disappearance.
Justice nearly 50 years later. A 75-year-old Queens man, once a barber, was sentenced today for the murder of his client back in 1976. The victim's dismembered remains discovered just a few years ago.
They were too clueless, and at times they started to wonder whether he made it to the barber shop or not. The New York Police Department, along with the FBI, tried to solve the case by making various efforts, but they couldn't do anything as they didn't find any leads in the case. Finally, in early 2019, there was a breakthrough in the case when a woman in her 50s called Detective Contreras and told him that he saw her mother's companion dismember and bury a body in the backyard. At the time, Contreras was just 31 years old. He had been a cop for 9 years and a detective for 3 years. He was a young and dedicated detective. Contreras was born 12 years after Seitz went missing, but he took a lot of interest in the case from the beginning. The police hoped that the body could be of Seitz. They started their investigation there and used dogs to scour the place, and finally, they were surprised when they found human remains under the ground, but the remains were not in a condition to be recognized, so the police weren't sure if it was Seitz or not, as the only remains found were some parts of the torso and pelvis. The body had been dismembered at the neck, shoulders, and hips. The investigation was conducted by detectives Eric Contreras and Robert Salvatore from the New York City Police Department's 102nd Precinct Detective Squad under the supervision of Sergeant Christopher Esposito and Detective Michael Gain of the Queens South Homicide Squad, and under the overall supervision of Lieutenant James McGarry.
Police have solved a cold case.
A 74-year-old man charged in a murder that police say happened 45 years ago at his barber shop. CBS 2's Alice Gaynor has a story from Jamaica, Queens.
Also assisting in the investigation were detective investigators Pearline Collin and Thomas Lockwood and Sergeant Kevin Kahoo of the Queens District Attorney's Office's Detective Squad. The investigators generated a genetic profile which helped to identify the DNA from those human remains, but they were still unable to identify whose remains they were. After 2 years, they called the FBI and higher authorities to help progress the case further. They also reached out to a forensic genealogy laboratory in the United States named Othram. Forensic genealogy is a practice which is used in the identification of suspects and victims in criminal cases. The lab was asked to perform advanced DNA testing that would lead to the identity of the homicide victim despite the level of decomposition of the remains. The police contacted the individuals who were believed to be potential family members of Seitz and identified their DNA samples to compare them to the samples found in the remains. Finally, after years of this much effort, the detectives were able to identify Seitz through those DNA samples. Now, the real question in everyone's mind is who's the murderer of Seitz? This question intrigued the police and investigators for a really long time. About 46 years after Seitz's death, the police were able to find the suspect of his murder in November of 2021. Finally, in October of 2022, a 75-year-old man named Martin Motta was found guilty of the murder of George Clarence Seitz. He showed no apology in court, but admitted all of his crimes. Apparently, he was the barber, and Seitz went to his shop for a haircut. Motta and his brother owned a barber shop about a mile from Seitz's home, authorities said.
Died shortly after leaving his apartment, which is only a few blocks from a barber shop that Mr. Motta had at that time. We believe that was his destination and that he arrived but never left.
As I said earlier, that Seitz had loads of cash on him, so apparently the investigators said that the barber murdered him to steal his money. An extensive investigation was done by the New York Police Department and the Queens District Attorney's Office, which included multiple interviews and record searches, according to which it was revealed that Motta stabbed Seitz in the head after robbing him of approximately $7,000 to $8,000, then dismembered and buried his body beneath concrete slabs in the backyard of a house in Jamaica, where it was uncovered 43 years later. Imagine someone going for a casual haircut, but instead getting robbed, killed, and dismembered. The Warren Squad arrested 74-year-old Motta at his home and brought him to the 102nd Precinct. The police officer took him down to Queens Central Booking, where he was fingerprinted and photographed. Motta was arraigned on a charge of intentional murder and remanded. For a long period of time, no one knew that Martin Motta was a murderer at the age of 29. He spent this time of his life casually by getting married and having kids until he got arrested. State Supreme Court Justice Kenneth Holder ordered Martin Motta to serve a sentence of 20 years in prison for the slaying of George Clarence Seitz on November 7, 2022. Queens District Attorney Melinda Katz said that the prison sentence for Motta represented justice nearly half a century after Seitz was killed. She said that after 46 years, a veteran of the First World War gets justice. The successes of modern technology and forensics made it possible for them to not only identify the bones of the victim, but also to help find any witnesses. The district attorney also added that time allowed forensic genetic genealogy and our investigators to catch up to this defendant. Though Motta is being sentenced for his merciless deeds for 2 upcoming decades, the sorrow and loss that Seitz's family went through cannot be erased. We can only hope that the incident of his killer will finally bring some peace and satisfaction to his beloved family members. So what do you think about this cold case? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And that concludes our discussion on the murder of George Clarence Seitz.